Basically what we're going to do now that we've had an understanding of the layering is start to put some of these pieces together and go into the third way of opening. So if you want to just turn your page over, the third way is to do what we call a dedication. What's it called? And a dedication is a nice way. A dedication is just a nice way of getting people to have a deep understanding of who you are, build an incredible level of trust in a very short period of time, and get a very strong emotional connection with people. And it can all be done in about 90 seconds. Now, the reason the dedication is good is because it warps time inside your audience. The reason it's bad is because it's you just talking about yourself in the beginning of your presentation, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. So there's pros and cons to everything that you do. For example, if you start with a you and a yes set, well, maybe they've seen a you and a yes set just yesterday, and it might have a similarity to it. If you start with a dedication, maybe they're like, why is this guy only talking about himself at the start of this talk? So everything has pros and cons, which we'll navigate as we get further into the program. But a dedication is a very nice structure that allows you to bounce people. What's it called? Bounce people along a timeline where they feel that they've known you for an incredibly long period of time. So if you've just met me and I'd like you to trust me, the way I can do that is by making you feel like you've known me for 15 years. And I can do that using a dedication. So a dedication is quite simply 3 moments in history that have shaped you up to the biggest problem that you've found, and then what you've dedicated your life to based off that problem, followed by a thank you. So we've got an example here on page 57, but I'll just do one for you without using this concept. But there's always an example in your books for you to have a look at. But it sounds like this. I've just walked on stage. Thank you. Please grab a seat. Now, for those of you who have not met me before, my name is Benjamin J. Harvey. And 15 years ago, I found myself suffering from severe mental illness, heavily medicated. And 10 years ago, I decided to do something about it. And I started to travel around the world, and I started to study with Sikhs and seers and sages and skeptics and sales reps and psychopaths and anything else that started with an S or a silent P. And I started to really have a deep understanding of this thing called personal development. And 5 years ago, I packed in my job and decided to really just focus all of my heart and soul into this thing and launched a business called Authentic Education. Which brings me here today to be in front of you now speaking to you about this concept. And over all the years of doing this, I've discovered that there really is just one core problem that people face day in and day out. And that problem is simply this. We are not born with a toolkit for our mind, and nor are we given one. And that's why I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to teaching people just like you exactly how to use this thing called the mind so they can heal themselves completely and have a magnificent life every single day. My name's Benjamin Harvey, and welcome to tonight's presentation. And that was 90 seconds roughly, but in that 90 seconds I've taken you on a journey. And in that 90 seconds you notice how much you now think you know me. You feel like you've been here in my depression, my mental illness. You've been here traveling the world. You've been here learning all this stuff. You're now here in the room. Now I've got this big problem. Now I'm dedicating my life to something. And whoa, you know everything about me. And I did it all in 90 seconds. So the thing I like about it is a very quick trust building process that warps time and gives people a perception that they've known you for a very long period of time. If you do too many of these during your talk will feel like it goes forever because it really does warp time in their brain. So you've got to use these sparingly, because when you do that, if I do too many bounces at the start of my talk, you'll start to feel it's going for a very, very long time, and you'll wonder, when are we getting to the content? Even though you've only been here for 5 minutes, it may feel like you've been here for 15, 20, 30, half an hour if I do too much bouncing. So when I bounce, I generally just pick 3 points in time, and I make them 15, 10, and 5. Even if they're not quite 15, 10, and 5, or 30, 20, 10. I keep them equidistant because I want them to be easy for you to follow. Because remember, your brain's not trying to do calculations. So if you say, for example, back when I was 19 years of age, I found myself doing blah, blah, blah. What ends up happening in the audience, they're now going to try and work out how old you are. While they're trying to work out how old you are, they're missing your whole connection you're trying to make. So anytime you're trying to get your audience to think at the start of your talk is a bad thing. So saying back when I was 17 doesn't help them. But if you say back 15 years ago when I was 17, that's okay. But now they're going to try and do the maths of how old you are because you've given them the timestamp. They go, well, you're 17, so that makes him 32. So he's 32. And while they do that, you realize they've missed everything you just said. They're trying to do a calculation. So you just say 15 years ago, blah, 10 years ago, blah, 5 years ago, blah. Or 30, 20, 10. Make it equidistant, easy for the brain. Either way, whatever you pick as the first point in time, they will now feel they've known you for that long. It's a very unique thing about how the brain can warp time. So this dedication here, it's going to be up to 3 minutes long. Ideally, it's about 90 seconds when you do it. However, sometime during this program, you will present this dedication, this structure, to about 12 to 15 people. So you'll do a presentation around this dedication, among other things. So we want to pay a bit of attention to it and get it right. So what we're going to do now is practice this step by step. In order to practice it step by step, though, it would be wise for us to just take a few notes so we've got some things that we can reference along the way. So if you flip the page over, we've got some templates for you. So on page 59 it says your turn. And then all we're going to do is just fill in the blanks basically. So it says, for those of you not met me before, my name is, and you just write your name there. And something you may not know about me is, and then you write in the amount of time, and then I found myself, and then whatever it is you're doing. X years ago, I. During that time, I discovered there is a major problem in the world where, and you write in the major problem. And that's exactly what I decided to dedicate my life to, and you write down your dedication, and then you say thank you. So we're going to fill this in. As I said, where possible, try and keep equidistance between the years. It's not essential. It just makes it a little bit easier for the audience to follow along. That's all. So another example might be, thank you, please grab a seat. For those of you who not met me before, my name is John Smith, and 15 years ago I found myself at Disneyland on a roller coaster, the Mickey Mouse roller coaster. And I was going up and down this roller coaster holding onto one of those stuffed toys that my mum had just won me with one of those BB guns. And as I was going down, I let go of the toy and it floated up into the air and then got trapped down between the actual cogs inside the roller coaster. 10 years ago, I was riding a unicycle, and while I was riding that unicycle, I had managed to work out how to juggle 3 pineapples and a machete whilst balancing a bowling ball on the top of my forehead. And 5 years ago, I was doing some string macrame, and I actually managed to weave a basket underwater. Which brings me to today, where I stand before you, and I've realized that there is a big problem out there, and that is that people are not giving themselves enough time to be creative in life. And that's why I've decided to dedicate the rest of my life to sharing with people the joys of art therapy and how they can be more creative. Welcome to tonight's presentation. Let's jump into it. And that's it. So just 3 moments in history. They don't have to be bad or good or anything. They're just moments in history. Albeit that was a completely ridiculous example, but believe it or not, you feel like you know me. You're like, wow, the guy's been on a roller coaster. He's juggled stuff on a unicycle. He's knitted a thing underwater. Okay, I kind of know this guy. He's weird, but I kind of know him. All right, cool. So we're not looking for anything specific or technical right now. We're just looking for you to get the structure under control.